up, everybody? Hope you're all having a lovely evening. Welcome back to DEGREELESSNESS, the only place that you'll find recommendations for things like this. Seriously, it'll make you feel like a kid at a sleepover who just rented GoldenEye for the weekend with your friends. It's awesome. Comes highly recommended. It's the little things, guys. Anyway, I'm your host, Shanghai Pete, the people's champ, 21st century digital boy, trusted member of the media, overgrown child, and your good buddy in the mix. We have a great show for you tonight, so please grab some brightly colored soda, make sure your friend's mom ordered pizza, and get cozy, because we're going deep inside. Just time for a quick recap of the week, which both begins and ends, as all things do, with Google Stadia. Everybody, it is with great and profound shock, horror, and disbelief that I'm forced to tell you this sad, sad news that Stadia will no longer be a thing.
Think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
Or at least that's what Google is saying today. And considering how long this service has been in various states of failing with every flavor of rumor under the sun swirling around it, it should really come as no surprise to anyone at this point. I myself, along with I'm sure many others, have been desperately trying to tell you since this pathetic excuse for a Google business experiment was unveiled that no, it was never going to work properly. No, they had zero real interest in supporting it as an actual consumer service. Yes, they were going to shamelessly and continuously lie to whoever they had to for as long as they had to about it. And yes, it was exactly as bootleg and ill-conceived as it has always looked. My friends, Stadia has always been dead. In fact, it was never really alive, except I suppose in like a cruelly twisted sort of corporate Frankenstein parody, maybe. Now, why do I say this? Well, because it's always been a scam. Sorry if none of you had figured that out at this point. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, spoiler alert, but yes, Stadia has always been a fucking scam. For a lot of you that'll probably remember, Google has a history of doing this, so much so that there's a fucking website that tracks it. Y'all remember stuff like Google Glass? This is what they do. This is what many nauseatingly gigantic, disruptive, and harmful corporations do just as a matter of course, like day-to-day shit. They have so much goddamn money that they can afford to essentially just flush some of it down the toilet every once in a while on the rare hope that maybe it comes back up somewhere as a profitable business vector. They don't care that people like this poor fucker poured over 6,000 hours into a game on their service because he was unfortunate enough to believe Google's lies about the sustainability of their platform. They certainly don't care that the people who spent their money on their controllers may never be able to use them for anything else ever again unless Google decides to graciously release some Bluetooth drivers for them, and they definitely don't give a fuck if their own goddamn employees weren't given a heads up that their entire department was getting shuttered. And I mean, you know, even if the devs over there did hear that, who could blame them for not believing it, considering the sheer multitude of times that LOL Stadia dead rumor has fucked its way across the internet. Even a tiny channel like mine, we've done 4 videos on that shit already. And perhaps the worst thing about all this is that at this point, they didn't even have to kill it. Look at Game Pass or PS Plus. My friend got a PS5 the other day, and in less than 5 minutes, he had Uncharted up and running flawlessly without even downloading it. A few years ago, yeah, shit barely worked at all. And even now, I would say that streaming games in general doesn't quite yet work at the level of consistency that it needs to in order to be a real viable alternative for traditional console sort of experiences. But at this point, in late 2022, it definitely does work. I didn't used to think so, and up until pretty recently, it barely did at all. But now, it kind of does. Google didn't finally put Stadia out of its misery because it didn't work. They killed the service along with hundreds of jobs and thousands of people's investment because it wasn't profitable enough. You think the whole Stadia experiment was just to see if they could do it? No, it was to see how much it would cost them to do it. And if that number was too high, they were always gonna fucking kill it no matter how well it worked or how many people used it. Now, in fairness, do I know this for sure? No, I have no idea. But one look at something like PS Plus will show you that the tech to do it absolutely is there if Google cared enough. It's just too bad that they don't, and never did. So, as a result, here I am, again, in the occasionally unenviable position of having to be like, yo, I fucking told you so. Shit's booty, and Google don't give a fuck. Moving on, for our main story tonight, we must discuss the recent trials and tribulations of a content creator named Video Game Dunkey, or simply Dunkey, and the game publishing company that he has announced that he's starting called Bigmode. We're talking about this today because this is a story not only about independent business ventures and startups, which I think are fucking cool, but also, and perhaps more importantly, because it's a story about industry gatekeeping and the overarching influence of big money interests and shit in our hobby, and how ultimately, there's no such thing as a W on the internet, boys. And we begin with Dunkey himself. I'm sure y'all are familiar with this dude to at least a certain extent, so I'm not going to go into it too much beyond just telling you what my personal perspective on him is. I think he has generally pretty good takes. He's also a funny motherfucker, so I like that. Obviously, I don't agree with him on everything, but overall, I think he's talented, pretty respected, and most importantly of all, sincere. Personally, it's that last one that really matters to me the most. As long as you're not some like hateful right-wing grifting fuckboy like the Quartering or some deranged shit like that. Even if I disagree with a lot of your takes, as long as I feel like you're sincere and not being bought off by corpos or some bullshit, that's cool. I got no problem with you. Like Big Daddy Richie over at Review Tech USA. That's a good example. I genuinely think that unless he's like directly shilling some fucking ad to you, I generally think that dude is very sincere. Now, I disagree with him on a fuck ton of shit, but I think he's sincere. So, you know, I'll watch his shit sometimes. That brief digression aside, I think it's safe to say that, yeah, I fuck with Dunkey. I'm sub to him, but I honestly only watch his videos like every once in a while, usually to see what his take is on like some pretty big release that I also happen to be playing at the time. In either case, this is a guy who's been around busting his ass, making unique original content for a long fucking time. You might fuck with him, you might not fuck with him, but you probably are gonna agree that he is many things, but perhaps most importantly is what he is not, and that's a fucking corpo shell. Or at least as near as I can tell he's not. If there's like some huge grievous evidence that somehow I haven't seen, leave it in the comments down below if you think I need to adjust my perspective on that. But anyway, like I said, I don't follow him very closely, but in most of the videos that I've seen, he's never been shy about speaking truth to power and calling bullshit when he sees it, which is far more than I can say about most other gaming channels. So, to be clear, he's not particularly proactive about going after the money interests in gaming either, or corpos, or calling out the way big business and capitalism in general has destroyed our hobby, but I also never see him slurping the corpo perp either, so, you know, credit and criticism where it is due. So yeah, that's Dunkey, a dude who I think it's pretty fair to say is a relatively beloved figure in the YouTube gaming space, maybe one of the biggest non-corpo or non-corpo funded channels out there, at least that I'm aware of. Motherfucker has like 8 million subs and over 3 billion views. That's fucking insane. And he's just announced he's starting a game publishing company called Bigmode. But according to social media, or the internets, this guy having the audacity to start a small business in the gaming industry is very bad. That's weird. Why? He's not my friend. I don't know him. Do any of these people? Do any of them have like a personal association with him? I don't think so. So if you're not personally associated with this individual, why does it matter to you at all what he does? What's with all the hot takes here?
Why are you being so grumpy? Are you on your period again?
The games industry is filled with game publishers. One more, one less is not going to have any sort of super dramatic effect on our lives. Either way, whether the company succeeds or fails, we will have games to play. Some good, some bad. Or mostly bad, probably. In the event it does succeed, though, then we might have a few more games in the good column. Cool. If it doesn't, I don't think we'll even notice. I know I'm not going to notice 1 or 2 more bad games amongst a pile of filth that's already big enough to threaten to smother out all of existence. Will you? So why is everybody reacting like this to the news of potentially just one more publisher in a sea of thousands that already exist? It's not like the games that he'll potentially publish wouldn't have likely found publishers somewhere else if his company wasn't there. The success or failure of any potential game publishing company, whether it's headed by Dunkey or someone else, will have almost zero noticeable effect on fucking anything. I really don't understand why anyone gives a shit beyond maybe a casual tweet to say like, oh, that's interesting, hope it works out, cool. But of course, no, this is the fucking internet, and I gotta admit, this particular news cycle of hot takes caught me off guard a little bit more so than this kind of stuff usually does. So why? What the fuck's going on?
You act like a little bitch right now.
There are many reasons, of course, but primarily and most interestingly, I would say, is because it allows us to look at industry gatekeeping almost in real time here. Now to illustrate, let's do a quick thought experiment. What are the chances, do you think, that if an organization like, I don't know, IGN had announced that they were starting a publishing company, that they would be met with the same reaction as someone like Dunkey. There would, of course, be takes from regular people like you and me who would fucking hate the idea of somewhere like goddamn IGN publishing games. But in the end, we'd all just sort of roll our eyes and look at it as just another example of the hell that we're forced to live in. But corpos? Blue checkmarks, G? You know the corpos would love it. And if the corpos love it, then all their sycophants would love it. And all their sad, deranged tribal supporters would then naturally, of course, also love it. And we'd be utterly drowned in a deluge of semen-coated access media tug jobs, all about how, oh, this is the best thing ever, IGN is gonna kill it.
That's a W, bro.
No hit pieces, no hot takes, no bizarrely skeptical Twitter indictments by blue checkmarked, morally bankrupt industry elites. None of that. It'd be all glow and knob slobbing all around. In fact, anyone not openly supporting it would probably get brigaded and piled on. Why? Well, because they're IGN. They're in the club. Y'all just don't want to let a scumbag YouTuber into your fucking club.
You and I are not in the big club.
That's the problem. He's too regular. He's too just some other dude. IGN and Dunkey are both internet-based content creation vectors who each account for billions of views on YouTube alone. In fact, that Dunkey, just one guy, has by himself an audience almost half the size of IGN's, arguably the biggest gaming coverage outlet on the planet, is fucking crazy. So if a channel like IGN is considered an expert on video games, well then Dunkey by extension absolutely must be as well. Yet we can imagine that no one would really have a problem with somewhere like IGN creating a publishing company the way they apparently do with Dunkey's Bigmode. So with that being said, let's have a little fun, bring up some examples of what people are saying about this. Now, one of the primary concerns that I'm seeing is this kind of tripe from geniuses like this fucking guy.
LOL. Imagine starting a publishing company with the ethos. I have played so many games that I know what makes them good and bad, so I will only publish good ones. Ha 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 ha. About to learn some stuff the hard way.
And you can see stuff like that repeated in places like here, 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 and here. Imagine saying publicly that you don't think that playing and caring about video games is a relevant qualification for publishing video games. Like, that's fucking self-report, G. You don't care about Dunkey or his potential company. What you care about is that someone from outside your exclusive little club might get in and show you how to do your fucking job. Because if all that happens, all of a sudden, oh, you're not so special after all, and maybe people will stop sucking your dick on places like social media. See, they want to maintain the mysticism surrounding corporate publishers and devs that make people believe that somehow these groups are made up of only top men, only very special individuals that must possess extremely high-value skills and abilities in order to be permitted access to the refined high art of making murder simulators and mushroom stomping games. Not everybody can do this, you know. My job is special. This is textbook gatekeeping class. That's why no one would give a shit if a company like IGN did this, because a company like IGN, they're already in the club. They're already part of the elites, the upper class, the gaming bourgeoisie, if you will. While Dunkey, well, he's just a filthy little YouTuber. He's part of the lower class, the proletariat, and their vaunted aristocracy couldn't possibly tolerate the likes of him. That's why they have a problem. Like some not in my backyard type shit. They're terrified that if one peasant gets in, that might pave the way for more, and then oops, no more privileged men in their high castle dictating terms of the gaming industry to everybody else. Sorry, Dave makes games, but you're not nearly as unique or cool as you think you are. You're actually kind of a fucking dick. Now, here's another example from big old blue checkmark and definitely very important person, Danny O'Dwyer.
Hey man, I respect Dunkey for trying to start a publishing business, and I wish him and his partner the best. But for fuck's sake, lads, it's 2022. We gotta drop this naive shtick that having opinions on games is a qualification for understanding just about anything about development. Da ha ha ha.
Really? Why do we gotta do that? Because You, Danny O'Dwyer, say that we've gotta? What's gonna happen if we don't? What are these terrible consequences? What sort of chaos and violence will be wrought if we don't drop this naive shtick that having opinions on games viewed by 3 billion people could somehow, oh god, crazily enough, maybe make you a little bit qualified for, I don't know, working in the business? Why do we gotta do that, Danny? Why don't you tell us? Explain it to us real slow. Can you do that, Danny? I don't think so. And also, I think it's important to point out that from the text of this tweet, it doesn't actually sound like you have any respect for him whatsoever. And I think his opinions on games, as you so derisively put it, since they've garnered over, 3 billion fucking views, maybe he does know a little bit about what the fuck he's talking about. Certainly more than you. I don't see 3 billion people lining up to hear what the fuck you have to say about games, Danny O'Dwyer. But our boy Danny's not done. He goes on to say,
I don't know many indies who want an involved publisher with no experience or industry rep.
With the personality that you've displayed just in these few tweets, I actually don't believe that you know many indies or any people, period, because you sound like a fucking dick that nobody would want to be around. But that aside, certainly is convenient that you apparently think any new publisher should have experience in industry rep before starting in the business. Weird, that sounds almost like an impossible requirement to fulfill. In fact, it sounds a little bit like maybe you wanna, discourage new publishers from getting into the business at all? What's another word for that, class? That's right, gatekeeping. Our boy Danny, like the rest of these filthy corpos, is gatekeeping his fucking industry because he's a fucking prick. And not to be outdone, here we go again with the you need experience before you get experience take.
Indies, if you're gonna take a deal from someone whose publishing qualifications are, I played lots of games, make sure your upfront is 130% of a well-paid, comfortable budget.
That's some very specific advice, my guy. Who exactly are you? Oh, shock and surprise, he's a paid game dev speaking consultant. How completely coincidental that he doesn't sound too enthused about someone from outside that part of the industry getting a foot in the door. Let me guess, if Dunkey had perhaps paid you to come and speak at a Bigmode company conference, suddenly having played lots of games maybe wouldn't be such a problem, right? Here's another.
It's not as easy as only publish good games like Cuphead and Hollow Knight, and he's going to be surprised what goes into publishing games.
Yeah, sure, I believe that it's not as easy as just publishing games like Cuphead and Hollow Knight, but maybe that would be a good place to fucking start, considering where the industry is right now, And I also, this is an aside, but I find it astounding how little respect people like this are comfortable displaying for other people in their respective industry. Like, dude, you're a, quote, game news curator with 22k followers. Dunkey has almost 8 million subs and billions of views. What gives you the audacity to think that you can fucking tell him anything about his business that he doesn't already know? What are your qualifications, dickhead? He's gonna be surprised what goes into publishing games? Why the fuck would you think that? Why would he be surprised? Maybe because you secretly, or perhaps not so secretly, think he's a fucking idiot simply because he's just a YouTuber and he's not a corpo like you? Is that it, maybe? I would be surprised, for example, what goes into skydiving because I've never been fucking skydiving. I'd also be surprised what goes into something like making pasta from scratch because I'm not a fucking chef. Why would Dunkey be surprised by what goes into an industry that he's already been enormously successful in, has spent over 10 years devoting work to, and has already spent a ton of time and money preparing and researching to launch a business in? And the fact that you're treating him like a little kid you're patting on the head going, "Sure thing, champ," is just unbelievably condescending. That you assume that since he's just a YouTuber that he would publicly announce a startup without properly preparing says everything anyone needs to know about what you really think of people like him and potential small business owners. Which, P.S., is not a good thing for you.
This isn't good.
But no, we're not quite done. Here's yet another "you're a YouTuber so you couldn't possibly know shit" take from yet another nobody.
Oh, I don't agree with the I play every game so I know good games angle, because there's a lot more to it.
Really? Is there? Could you perhaps elucidate what else there is to it? Could you explain it to us? Could you explain it to us plebs that couldn't possibly know any better? Because all I hear is a lot of whinging and fucking whining, and I got sand in my fucking pussy. I don't hear any reasons why other than, oh, there's just a lot to it you couldn't possibly understand. Well, why don't you help me understand there, fuckface? This guy then follows up that brilliant point with,
I could also pull, I play every game so I know the good ones out of my ass. Anyone could.
I mean, sure, yeah, he's right. Anyone with 3 billion fucking views to back it up could, yeah. Is that you, Chief? Somehow, I don't fucking think so, so maybe you should shut the fuck up. What's it to you if he fails or not? Why should you give a shit? Alright, that's enough of that. I suppose we can't be having too much fun, but I trust my point is clear. What this really comes down to is that no one has any fucking idea how successful Bigmode will or will not be. And for damn sure, no one knows why it may or may not be successful either. And you know what? I don't think anybody should care, because it's none of our fucking business. I'm sticking up for and defending Dunkey here, not because I give a shit what happens to his stupid fucking publishing company. It's because I feel obligated to stick up for anybody whenever the corpos come for him and try to put the boot on their goddamn necks, which is clearly, at least to me, what's being done to Dunkey here. What we're seeing is the games industry establishment activating and rising up to try to defend and gatekeep access to it and all the influence and money that it wields. It's really as simple as that. If you have any opinion, you should be hoping he succeeds, because even one more indie publisher that's not run by some huge parasitic and ravenous corpo sweatshop is probably a good thing.
That's good.
Notice that while we seem to have an unlimited font of people spewing examples of what Dunkey can't do and why he can't do it, no one seems to have managed to come up with a single thing that he should do or he could do. If y'all are such geniuses and can predict with such flawless accuracy why this company will be a failure, certainly you should have no trouble at all coming up with things he could do to improve or ensure success, right? Or do you not actually have any fucking idea what you're talking about and you're just running your mouth like every other broke-brained fuckbag on the internet? Because to you, criticizing people who actually have the sack to take chances is far easier than actually taking risks yourself, especially ones that might, oh heavens, require you to leave the house, touch grass, and interact with real actual people out in the real actual world. Yikes, that's pretty fucking pathetic. It's at times like this that I find it prudent to remind everybody that platforms like Twitter are there to make everyone forget that just because you can offer your opinion doesn't mean anybody wants to hear it or that you should. Just another tedious example of the modern law that dictates once something or someone becomes too large, famous, well-known, whatever, haters will inevitably emerge to siphon up all the grifting and virtue signaling that can be harvested from it. As I am so eloquently doing right now. Just goes to show you, no matter who you are, what you do, or what you say, or what you attempt, on a long enough timeline, there are only L's on the internet, folks. See, it's kind of like, remember when you were a kid, right? And you looked at people like politicians, the president, stuff like that, and you thought, wow, they have such fucking important jobs. Those guys must be really fucking smart. That's crazy. They must be like the best of us to be able to handle some crucial, super important stuff like running a country, right? But then you grew up and you realized they were all just as fucking stupid, and in some cases actually more stupid than the rest of us. This is kind of like that. Don't let anyone ever convince you that you need to be some exceptionally gifted idiot to work in games publishing or development or any other industry. You just have to want to. You know what the difference is between all these self-satisfied, preening, pompous blue checkmark egomaniacs on the timeline and somebody like Dunkey or anyone else who doesn't yet work in the industry? Fucking nothing. Everyone is just as capable of succeeding in this industry or any other as anyone else. Shut your gatekeeping ass the fuck up. Woohoo! That's our show. Thank you so much for chilling with us tonight, spending this little bit of your free time here. We love you today. We love you all the way. So what do y'all think about this Dunkey publishing company thing, fiasco, whatever? Do you give a shit? Do you think it'll be dope? Do you think he'll sell out the second he has a chance? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll catch you next time, unless, of course, you were a Stadia customer, in which case we will not catch you next time because you probably killed yourself.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. back down. What? Yup, woke up, smoke a blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Huh? Woke up, what up, smoke up.